Finishing up our chats for today. We're going to be moving on to a chat talking about arts at Dartmouth. I'll just reintroduce myself. My name's Ethan Weinberg. I'm an intern at the office. I'm a senior. I'm a major in government and a minor in environmental studies. I'm a member of the Dartmouth Airs, an a cappella group at Dartmouth. I've also been a judge and a participant in the Dartmouth Idol performing arts contest.
Hey, I'm JT. I'm from just outside of Albany, New York. I'm class 2013, so I'm a junior. I'm a math and social sciences major, which is basically an applied math degree. And I'm going pre-med, hopefully. On campus, I play in the Dartmouth Symphony Orchestra, and I'm an admissions worker as well.
Hi, I'm Kayla Gilbert. I'm a 12. I'm a senior. I'm from Aurora, Colorado, and I'm a studio art major and a digital arts minor. And I'm also a member and director of Ujima Dance Troupe, and I'm also one of the interns at the Hood Museum of Art doing programming, which is just setting up programs for students at the Hood.
Wonderful. Well, thanks for coming in to talk with all the prospective students we have out there. So just to give you a sense of what the arts are like at Dartmouth, many students are involved in the arts in various capacities, and we have the Hopkins Center, which is the Center for Performing Arts mostly, and then we have the Hood, which is a very wonderful museum that Kayla happens to be an intern at this year. So between those two are a lot of the main hubs for music, visual art, theater. We have 3 wonderful studios at Dartmouth. We have a jewelry studio, a woodworking studio, and we have a pottery studio that's a little bit off campus. But all 3 of those are really open for students to just come in and explore things that they've never done before, which is really great. So how did you guys get involved with the arts at Dartmouth?
For a long time, I was trying to decide what my major would be, and I was definitely an econ major till econ 1. And then I kind of reworked what I was really interested in, and I took an art class, and I just loved it. It was really, free and easy, and so after that, I took another art class, and then I kind of decided over sophomore summer, that I wanted to be an animator. So studio art just seemed like the thing to do because there's only a digital arts minor and not a major, unless you want to do a bunch of coding, which I'm not too great at. So I stuck with the digital arts minor and the studio art major, and that's how I got involved.
Yeah, I've played different musical instruments my whole life, and I actually thought that I wanted to go to music school, and so I applied to a bunch of conservatories, and then I even got into a couple, but then I found out about the music program at Dartmouth, and I was like, this is the best of both worlds. It's just awesome. And I came here, and I found out that you can take music lessons for free, which is awesome, and it doesn't mean, even if you've never played an instrument before, you can still get lessons for free, which is just really cool. And then actually it was through my teacher here that I found out about the orchestra, and so I auditioned and I got in, and it's just been really awesome. I've met some great people.
It's really great. Awesome. So we have our first question from Ifabugal. When are auditions usually held for the arts at Dartmouth, including the dance team? So the auditions for most of these groups happen around the fall when students begin to matriculate and during an orientation and just after orientation. But a lot of programs will have auditions every term, which is really great, so that you can always jump in and try something new, which is really wonderful. We have a question from Mom 2016. Do students need to take classes or be certified in order to use the studios? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, with the woodworking shop, everyone has to take a class on it, and they kind of just teach you how to use the machines and a lot of safety stuff. For those studios, I believe you do have to take a course. In terms of the art studios, as long as you're in an art class, you can go into the drawing studio or the painting studio, and that way you have the materials and you can work in the studios that way.
Great. We have a question from Marisa. Can any student audition for a musical, or do you have to be a theater major? You do not have to be affiliated with any specific department to participate in any of the performing arts programs at Dartmouth, which is really great because we know that there are lots of students who come in with various interests in different subject areas. And for example, I know that I really like singing and music, but I knew that I didn't want to necessarily be a music major. But any student who is interested in a specific performing arts group or a visual arts group is able to participate and doesn't necessarily have to be a major or a minor. We have a question from Arabesque94. Can you please specify what opportunities groups there are for dance? Any performances? want to talk about those?
Yeah, there are various dance groups on campus. The one that I'm in, which is Ujima, is a hip hop group, and there are, I would guess right now, about 7 or 8 different groups, ranging from hip hop to, what is that?
Vandana, which is Southeast Asian dance.
And Raz is also.
Which is also,
Raz.
And then there's Fusion, Sugar Plums, Shiba. I mean, they just range from all different styles. And there's also a lot of classes, too, that you can take, like PE courses that have that dancing involved. So you don't have to be necessarily in a group, but you can take it as a course as well. Performances. We perform at fraternities, we perform at the common grounds on campus, just really anything. We'll be performing for Dimensions if anyone's going to be up for that. Just whatever opportunities come in, we just dance all around campus.
We have a question from Mom 2016. Are beginning students are eligible to participate in music lessons and stuff like that?
Yeah, 100%. There are just a wealth of opportunities for beginning students. In fact, there are some teachers here who only teach beginning students. And yeah, that's in a lot of the instruments, because some of them are things you've never heard of. Like I had never heard of the Indonesian gamelan before. So I think everybody's kind of a beginner there, and you can take music lessons in that. Certainly if you are an advanced player, there are opportunities for that too, and performance opportunities there. But Dartmouth kind of goes out of its way to give everybody the opportunity. And Dartmouth actually has a lot of its own instruments, so you don't even have to own an instrument in a lot of cases. You can get one here, and there's lots of storage sites and stuff right in the Hopkins Center for music instruments.
Great. We have a question from Angela. What kind of opportunities are there for wind players at Dartmouth?
Yeah, there are 2 main performing groups that wind players can play in. One is the Dartmouth Symphony Orchestra, which I'm a part of, and we use a full wind complement, and it's awesome. Our wind section is one of our best sections. I'm actually a brass player, so I don't know specifically about the wind audition process or anything like that, but I do know that they're really cool and really good. And then we also have a wind symphony, which is conducted by an awesome conductor named Mr. Marset. He's young and energetic and super interesting, and they always program really good stuff. And then there are a lot of chamber groups that are wind related chamber groups, and you can actually get course credit for doing chamber music work, and actually also for taking music lessons. You can get course credit for it.
Which is really great. We have a question from JMM12. Do you know how hard it is to start a club relating to music, the arts, etc.? Well, one thing that I know is that I have a friend who started a ballet-inspired fusion dance group just this past year called Sugar Plums, so it's actually pretty easy. A lot of these groups that are performing arts related fall under the COSO, or Council on Student Organizations, in Collis. So there's a process by which a student who has a specific interest in something that might not necessarily be represented at Dartmouth can find a group of students and present a plan for a group, and they go through a process where they can create groups, and that happens fairly regularly, which is really nice to see that Dartmouth students can make a place for an organization if they don't see their interest. And then we have a follow-up question. Will the Hood and Hop support these groups? So they do in different ways, though there are some groups, kind of like the ones that JT was talking about, that fall specifically under the Hood and have faculty or staff who run them. And then there are also a lot of the groups like Ujima that are completely student-run, that they might have a faculty advisor, but they pretty much do everything themselves. So for those groups that fall under Collis, they don't necessarily have a direct relationship with the Hop and the Hood, but they can use a lot of the rehearsal spaces and performance spaces, which is really great. We have a question from Ifabigal. How often are practices for the various arts, theater, dance, music, etc.? So what's it like for you, Jima?
Yeah, we practice 4 times a week, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and practices are usually about 2 hours. But then when it gets towards shows that are really big, like this year we're doing Step Show, and that will tend to be 2 weeks before performing. We'll have practice every day. So I know it ranges. Other groups are a lot more intense, and other groups are a lot more laid back. So it really ranges.
Yeah, there's definitely a variety of commitments, and I know for a cappella, most groups rehearse about 3 times a week for 2 hours each week. For 2 hours each day. So that's definitely a variety in the kind of commitment that you'd have there. And what's really great is that there's so many students who are involved in different things that they try to find rehearsals that are at slightly later times in the day for a lot of performing groups that you can, there are people who are athletes and also in a lot of these performing groups, which is great because they can go to practice and then they can go to rehearsals and do everything, which is really nice. We have a question from ADS 93. Are voice lessons also available for free?
Yeah, as far as I know they are. In fact, I know for a fact they are. I actually know a bunch of people who are taking them. And yeah, not only are they free, but you can get course credit for them. If you take it for a year, it counts as a course, and it's really great. It's a really different type of learning experience than what you'd see in a typical classroom, obviously. And I think that's one of the things that's just awesome about Dartmouth is they give you all these cool opportunities to do things like that. So yeah, they're definitely free.
Yep. We have a question from Marisa. Can students work under musical theater directors as an intern? Not only can they work as producers on a lot of the big performing arts pieces that happen at the Hop, but sometimes they can run their own. There are a lot of student-run productions, which is really great to see. And those can be straight theater or straight drama, or they can be musical theater. You'll see probably a couple of those each term where students will get support from the Hop to put on a show, and they'll have often these performances will be in our black box theater in the Hop, and they'll do everything from finding a musical director to casting to running rehearsals to directing, so all of that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of opportunity for students to get behind the scenes work as well. We have a question from, how do you balance your scheduled rehearsals and practice time with your schoolwork and social life? What do you think about that, Kayla?
It's hard. I will say that it gets better with time. Time management is a huge, issue, I think, for a lot of students, and I think having so many things is actually a lot better because then you have to actually manage your time. You have to write down when you can do things, when you're available, and the great thing about Dartmouth though is that we, it's the whole work hard, play hard. We have as much fun as we do work, and it's manageable and it's doable. It's hard though, but yeah, you just make it done.
I would completely agree. It just kind of all works. It's one of those things where I've had terms where I've looked at my schedule at the beginning and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? But then you just do it one day at a time, and it all works out. And I think, we only listed a couple of the things that we're involved in, and that's what's also kind of interesting about Dartmouth. You talk to someone in a group that you're in with them, and you find out that they're doing all these other really interesting things also, and that you're never even thought about, but they're just also awesome. So yeah, it's definitely hard, but it's one of those things that just kind of works, and you figure it out as you go.
Great. We have a question from Arabesque94. Do most students have previous experiences with the art group they're a part of, or are many students beginners? I don't know. I've seen a lot of both. There are definitely people who come into Dartmouth having, danced or sung or played an instrument all their life, and then there are definitely people who come in who have never tried it and give it a shot at Dartmouth and really have an opportunity to try something new.
Yeah, I know that I'm a studio art major, but I think I took I never took any classes with any sort of art when I was, in elementary and in high school. And so when I came here, it was a really cool opportunity. And when I did it, I just fell in love with it. And so, and dance too, I used to dance probably in daycare to like Britney Spears and NSYNC, but that was something that I also didn't do all throughout my previous career, and then came to Dartmouth, and something that I just love doing. So, yeah.
Then to follow up on that, does not having experience in a specific art form disadvantage you in participating in the arts? And I would say that it definitely depends on whether or not you're trying out for a group that's more competitive, that, if you're trying to get into Dartmouth Symphony Orchestra or the Wind Symphony, you probably should have had some familiarity with those instruments beforehand. But there are a lot of opportunities for beginners to try out something new. So I think that there's definitely opportunities for people at lots of skill levels.
And the other thing is, you're here usually for at least 4 years. So if you're a beginner in year 1, you're not a beginner by year 2, year 3. And there are, and these are not things you can only join as a freshman. You can, and that kind of goes back to the question about time management. If you don't want to be necessarily as involved your freshman fall, that doesn't mean it has to be the case your sophomore fall either.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
A question from Afab Gal. Can you give a little more information about Dartmouth Idol? So Dartmouth Idol is kind of just a mock of the classic American television show, American Idol. And we have a series of performances where students will perform for in our biggest performance space called Spalding, our biggest auditorium, and they'll, with the help of some of the hot faculty, put together big bands, and then there's voting, and it's a really fun process where people who sing get an opportunity to show off to the community, both in Dartmouth and then in the Upper Valley. So it's a really fun program. Question from Marisa: how are student-run performances funded, and where would a student find this source?
So yeah, well, in the area that I know about in music, you would just talk to the Hopkins Center staff. They're usually pretty open to not only student-run performances, absolutely, but if there's an artist that you know of that you'd like to bring in, maybe not a Jay-Z type, but on a slightly lesser scale, you could definitely make that kind of stuff happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that with the dance groups, at least, when we have performances that are kind of our shows that we're advertising for and things like that, every time we dance at a location on campus, we do get funded for it from those places. And so when we want to set up our own show, we go through having to pay for the venue and the advertising and things like that. But I mean, it's a college for the students, so the facilities are endless, and just the resources are amazing. So anything that you want to do, you can definitely do.
Great. We have a question from ADS93. As a possible theater major wanting to go on the summer FSP, would I miss sophomore summer, or do most people take it in their junior year? I think that it's definitely a variety. I actually know a couple of people who are going on the theater major as a freshman finishing their freshman year, and then there are also people who will do it during their junior summer as well. And it's really nice. That's just one example of the flexibility that the D plan has. So you can do something really great at multiple points in your Dartmouth career and have a wonderful experience. We have another question coming in. What about the arts at Dartmouth attracted you to pick coming here for college?
Yeah, so as I said, I thought that for a long time that I wanted to go to conservatory, and I was set on that. And then I found out about the programs here. So if we want to talk about a specific, I would say it was just the wealth of opportunities here, and that it really is a place where you can try whatever you want. And because there are so many opportunities here that you can try out and that you can experiment with.
Yeah, with me, I was kind of the opposite. I went to a really competitive high school, and it was a prep school, and we just, going through the motions to get into the best colleges and things like that. And so when I got into Dartmouth, I was really on a different mindset. And so when I came here, I was pleasantly surprised by the amount of opportunities to do things that had to deal with the arts, and really, found a home in that sense. And so, yeah, it's a nice surprise.
And for me, I remember my father used to drag me to the Dartmouth Era's performances when I was, 8 years old, and I would sit and watch them and think, oh my God, what are these silly boys doing? And then I found myself auditioning for that same group about 10 years later. So it was really fun change of perspective on that. And I think that there are so many opportunities for students who obviously have so many different interests and talents, and coming to Dartmouth, you're going to be pulled in so many different directions. And I think that kind of, as Kayla was talking about before, it's tough to find that balance immediately, but over the course of your first few terms, you figure out where you want to spend your time and how you want to balance your work with your social life, with your performing arts, with sports, with everything that's going on at Dartmouth. Another question coming in, could we talk a little bit about the mentorship program in the arts, formal or informal? How that kind of works?
I don't know of mentors for students, but I know of students mentoring younger people. There's a program called START, which is Student Teachers in the Arts, that's run through the Hopkins Center in the Hood, where people who are involved in the arts at Dartmouth go to local elementary schools, middle schools, and run after-school programs. So there's definitely cases where students mentor non-Dartmouth students, but I personally don't know of any
I think this is more of an informal thing, kind of that you're talking about, and I'm sure that Kayla can relate, but when you have a performing arts group and you come into Dartmouth, it really ends up being part of your Dartmouth family. And you'll find little pockets of that Dartmouth family all over campus and in the different things that you participate in. And I know definitely when I came in my freshman fall and once I was in my a cappella group, that definitely became a support group where I had upperclassmen who, you know, not only sang but also did so many different other things on campus and were really great at showing me the ropes. And I think that when you come in and you have your trip leaders and you have your UGAs and you have your friends in you have your upper class friends in other organizations, you really have so many different people who are there to try and help and support you in your first couple terms at Dartmouth. It's great. So thank you everyone for joining us in Chatapalooza 2012. If you have more questions about the arts, you can look on the HOP website, the Hood website, Council on Student Organizations website, just so you can check out all of the opportunities that there are at Dartmouth. We encourage you to see our Performing Arts Showcase, which will be taking place on the Friday night of Dimensions, and we're going to have a whole wide variety of performing arts organizations there to present to you. It's going to be a really, really fun time. So stay tuned for our last chat of the day, which is going to be featuring 2 all-star seniors who are going to look back and share their experiences at Dartmouth, and we'll be right back for our last chat of Dartmouth Chatapalooza. Thank you very much.